Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's question asks if I would discuss the common characteristics and traits associated with what's commonly referred to as a highly sensitive person, or HSP. Sometimes described quite negatively by others as someone who is too sensitive. But there are positives in being highly sensitive, and today I'm going to look at both the struggles and the strengths in some of those characteristics. So if you like this video, if you find it helpful or interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. But just as a reminder, this video is for information purposes only. Now, all of us are sensitive on some level, but the highly sensitive person, now that's a term that was first coined in the mid-1990s by psychologists Elaine and Aron. It refers to personality traits for those who are believed to have increased central nervous system sensitivity to emotional, physical, or social stimuli. So there are increased responses to both positive and negative external influences. And it is estimated that up to 20% of the population would be considered to be highly sensitive to different degrees and intensity. Sometimes it may be confused with sensory processing disorder, but that is something completely different. Highly sensitive people can be very intuitive, perceptive, self-aware. They feel things very differently, are emotionally intelligent, emotionally driven, and process information at a deeper level than others. It is also different from just being introverted, although being highly sensitive and introversion can share similar traits. So let's look at some of those common characteristics. First of all, highly sensitive people can be very easily stressed or upset by conflict and generally avoid it whenever possible. They can pick up on other people's moods quite quickly. They can pick up when someone has a problem but won't communicate it. They tend to scrutinize situations, non-verbal cues. They try to read people's reactions and behaviors to monitor their own behavior and what they say themselves towards them. They can at times misinterpret signals or overthink other people's reactions and can sometimes end up making a mountain out of a molehill. Now, an example of that might be they see the look on someone's face on their way out the door and they spend the rest of the day wondering, worrying, did I cause that? What did I do? Did I say something? Have I upset them? And analyze many different ways that they can either pacify that person, make something up to them, or to try to find some kind of reassurance. And due to that discomfort with conflict, many highly sensitive people would be often what's referred to as people pleasers, putting other people's feelings, needs in front of their own, choosing what they think is the path of least resistance, saying yes to things that they don't really want to do, but out of fear of offending or causing contention. And this can lead them to being exploited, taken advantage of, as their boundaries, their good nature, it's often crossed, it's disrespected, or they can have difficulty asserting themselves for fear of offending or making a situation worse. Highly sensitive people also have a low threshold for emotional pain. If offended or hurt or mistreated, many have a hard time being able to understand that, being able to process that, being able to let that go and to move on. They can feel pain from many years ago, struggling to understand why someone would behave in such a way, replaying relationships, interactions, situations in their head over and over again, even if it's from their school days. In some cases, some can find violence in movies or television unsettling and distressing. They can be very highly sensitive to criticism as well, and feel like it's more like a judgment on them as a person. But that is not to be confused with the sensitivity to criticism often seen present with a narcissism. With the highly sensitive person, they don't necessarily try to blame shift, make excuses, or avoid responsibility. What they tend to do is they tend to take the blame. It was they who were in the wrong. They were wrong for saying no. They were wrong for hurting, for being inappropriate, wrong for perhaps being cowardly and not standing up for themselves. As much as they don't like criticism, highly sensitive people tend to be their own worst critic, often blaming themselves, and can hold themselves to impossible and unrealistic standards. They can ruminate over errors in judgment, mistakes made even years ago, lie in bed at night unable to sleep, replaying situations again and again in their heads, beating themselves up for over perhaps what they believe someone from last week, earlier that day, 10 years ago, what that person might be thinking about them or how they might be feeling today. And if they themselves are misunderstood or their intentions are misunderstood, they can feel as if they failed somehow and again ruminate excessively over what they did wrong. And because highly sensitive people can feel things more deeply than others, they can take on a lot of what other people feel and can become emotionally exhausted and do need quite a bit of time on their own just to be able to recharge. Some highly sensitive people don't really like loud noises, crowds. They are aware of everyone there and can feel overwhelmed. In situations like that, they may find it difficult just to relax and be in the moment. For example, if they were at a concert, they may be paying more attention to everyone and everything else that's going on rather than the performance at the concert itself. They like familiarity and structure. Highly sensitive people sometimes struggle with change. They feel uncomfortable with change. They can often feel nostalgic for past times as well, sometimes trying to create past familiarities. In their approach to things, highly sensitive people tend to be quite highly conscientious, but struggle with more than perhaps one task at once and can buckle under pressure very easily, but again would beat themselves up for not being enough, for not being good enough, for disappointing others, for letting others down. And there are times when they can lash out angrily if feeling frustrated or misunderstood or criticized too harshly, but often feel regret and shame over that outburst and even try to make amends. So there are some of the struggles associated with highly sensitive people. Now let's have a look at some of the positive qualities, the strengths. They can be very creative, not just artistically, but in many ways. Someone comes to them with a problem, they can be very attentive, very resourceful whenever trying to find ways to help them, trying to find solutions. By their very nature, they are very kind people and very thoughtful people. Now, even if they do misinterpret whether or not someone really does need their help, they always feel as if they want to, or perhaps they need to do something. I think this comes from an internal belief system that good people do good things, and because they misinterpret these things, sometimes it's not recognizing the difference between a good thing and the right thing. And although they can be very complex, they have a very rich inner life. They think through things deeply. They can be quite introspective and can be deeply moved by acts of kindness and generosity from others. They are very appreciative. They can see beauty. They see beauty in nature, in art, the human spirit, and they see it in ways that sometimes other people would miss or even dismiss. And although they may struggle with change, they are open to new information. They are able to change their mind. They are open to learning. They're open to admitting if they've made a mistake or if there is a better way of doing something. So what I would say about highly sensitive people is that ability to pick up on the mood in a room, to feel the mirth or the tension, the ability to be compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic, to be creative in finding solutions when others come to them with their problems. I think these are wonderful qualities. If you're a highly sensitive person, don't lose those qualities. Heaven knows the world needs more sensitive people. But what can sometimes be someone's greatest strengths can also be their Achilles heels. Because without boundaries, those qualities can be self-destructive. Again, if you're a highly sensitive person, something for you to consider is no isn't a bad word. And that compassion, that kindness that you might have for others, well, imagine what that would look like if you were to turn a little bit of that inwards, even just once in a while. Talk to yourself the same way that you do talk to other people. So, they're just a few of the common characteristics of highly sensitive people. Now, as always, do please feel free to add anything I may have missed. There are always some interesting conversations start around these videos. But if you find this video interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.